I don't have a lot in common with many of the speakers. First of all, I don't have any letters before or after my name. Second thing is I'm not a Buddhist. And the third thing is I haven't got a book. But this is what I'll do for you, because I'm getting the feeling that a book is kind of a thing. This is what I'll do. All my slides, everything I'm going to talk about, you can get right now on there. danhaesler.com/S2C, sharing to caring. See what I did? Now, if you want to put that onto your iPad or your iPhone and open it up, I'm more than happy to come and sign your iPad. Now, I've been working with kids in Manchester years ago, and since then I've been working with kids for 15 years in Australia. I'm so fortunate I get to go to every territory, every state, work with kids in the most affluent of areas, and I work with kids in the most impoverished areas. And it's an incredibly rewarding thing that I get to do. One of the most rewarding things I also get to do is get to coach my 7-year-old's under-7s rugby league team. Why we call it rugby league, I don't know. It looks nothing like rugby league. Herding cats would be a better way to describe it. But in my son's rugby league team, we've got 10 boys that play. And every single one of those boys has a different background. Every single one. And what's interesting is that these kids play together every single day at school, come to footy, and not one of them makes mention of the fact they look different to each other. And then I go to Woolworths or Coles or your favourite supermarket outlet or your local greengrocer. And I'll see kids pointing and staring and asking, Mum, why is she wearing a scarf? Dad, why does he look like this? And parents go, shh, don't stare, it's rude. Don't ask questions, it's rude. Why is it rude? Why do we steal our kids' questions? Why do we make them think that what they want to know about is unimportant? Why do we just tell them, oh, it's just the way it is, it's their religion, it's their culture, end of story? Why do we think that just blindly accepting other people is the way that will help kids understand other people? I wonder what would happen if adults just shut up for a while and let kids do the talking. Because I wonder if we get to a point where people like this didn't have such a platform. George Brandis not only demonstrating here that an understanding of metadata is not the only thing he's lacking. And this government, as a blogger, this government is the government that just keeps on giving. And I don't know what's in the water in Canberra around March, but this was in March 2014. In March 2015, our Prime Minister distilled the oldest culture on earth down to a lifestyle choice. How does that happen? That wasn't me. I'm not a ventriloquist. So I got to thinking, I thought, well, what does, I'm a teacher, right? And it seems to be that all social ills, no matter who's committing them, whether it's our Prime Minister or whether it's kids on the street, it's school's job to fix it. So, and obviously we've got all this kind of stuff. We don't need to worry about that. So, what's happening in schools? Well, our school curriculum, I don't know how many of you have read it, but it runs to about 1,500 pages. So I've just distilled it down to a couple of slides. And this is what I think the important bits are. To develop and understand an empathy and understanding of others. To develop intercultural understanding, students learn to value their own culture, languages and beliefs, and those of others. And students learn about and engage with diverse cultures in ways that recognize commonalities and differences, create connections with others, and cultivate mutual respect. Now, this word connections is a really interesting one, because our kids today are more connected than ever. But I wonder how many of those connections are merely superficial. How deep do they go? We talk about connected kids, and often what we're thinking about is, Facebook. Or if you're thinking about Facebook, you've missed the boat, actually. They're all on Instagram. Why? Because we're all on Facebook, right? And the average kid has got between 800 and 1,000 followers. In the old days, we used to call them strangers or people we didn't know. But now they're followers. And so what I'm trying to do is understand, well, how can we take this desire of today's generation to want to share everything, literally everything, and actually turn that to make more meaningful connections? And what role could this have in education? And so about 12 months ago, I found myself working with a group of Indigenous kids down in South Australia, and they came from the APY lands, and they'd board at this school, and we'd do a bit of work. And I was talking with them and their teachers about how could we use social media just to start reading and writing a bit more. Because as we're aware, the saddest irony is that our nation's very first educators and very first learners are now the ones which suffer the largest inequities. And so we're saying, well, we've got there's this myth out there that kids don't like reading or writing. That's a lie. They just don't like reading and writing what we want them to read or write. So we're thinking, all right, well, how do we get kids who either don't feel comfortable reading or writing to enter into this? And then we started thinking, well, hang on, what more could we do here? What more could we do? Because it's one thing to say, all right, kids, let's get out there and do stuff and put something out there. We want to do well on this because we're going to put it online and people are going to read it. But then we want to go back a step and say, well, hang on, what are we going to put online? We're not just going to put our breakfast on and stuff like that. And so I opened up the curriculum again. As I do, I'm a bit of an education nerd, a bit of bedtime reading. Across the Aussie curriculum, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures priorities provide opportunities for all learners to deepen their knowledge of Australia by engaging with the oldest continuous living cultures. Students will understand that contemporary Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities are strong, resilient, rich and diverse. My problem is, and I don't mean this to sound flippant in any way, so please don't take offence, but my problem with that is the majority of Aussie kids learn about Indigenous culture from a white person who learnt it from another white person. And so we started talking in this group and said, well, what if, let's just get crazy here, what if kids could start putting stuff online, Indigenous kids telling their stories about their cultures and all that kind of stuff. How could we leverage SoundCloud, for example, to do some spoken word poetry or tell Dreamtime stories? How could we use Instagram maybe to document what life is like back on the APY lands? How could we use Skype to connect kids with other kids just so they can ask the questions that adults don't feel comfortable fielding? What might happen there? And so we started thinking, well, what if we could do that? What does it mean? And what we found, and in other communities I'm going into, what we found is that some of these Indigenous kids, unfortunately, were becoming detached from their elders. Now, this is a phenomenon we see a lot in other, white Australia, teenagers rebelling against kids or whatever. But when it's happening in an Indigenous culture, you're basically losing culture. And so what we wanted them to do is go back and reconnect so they had a story to tell. What does it mean to be Indigenous? And from there, which was really cool in this workshop, right there and then, I said, you know what, I think I know someone on Twitter. So I just tweeted this person who lives in Canada, who works with First Nation people in Canada. And so what their journey started by talking to each other about what it meant to be Indigenous people in their respective countries from their Native Americans. So these kids weren't, sometimes kids are just victims of stereotypes, and they start playing to a narrative. And, I'm not standing up here, I've got no idea about Indigenous culture. But I'm learning all the time from these amazing kids. And what's more, they're reading and writing and presenting and feel like they've got a story to share. Now, it's still very early days. And if there's any teachers in here who are interested in their schools connecting with this school, drop me a line via there on your signed iPad. Now, so then I was literally at an event just last Friday it was, in Brisbane. And I heard this guy from a year 2 school, from a school in Innerborough. He was the year 2 teacher. And he was just casually talking about how his kids had been chatting with kids in Nepal post the earthquake. And what was interesting, so I sat down and said, mate, I'm doing this talk next week all about how we can use social media to help kids, get to know each other. I think it's quite hard to be racist if you actually know somebody and actually build a friendship and all that kind of stuff. So your story here would be a fantastic way just to finish things off. And he said, oh, all right, I've not really got anything to do. I said, oh, that's a shame. He goes, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go back on Tuesday, because Monday was a public holiday. I'll get all the parents to give us permission, and I'll just knock up a little video that you can show to your audience and to show them kind of what they were doing. So this is literally a year 2 group who had been talking prior. They'd made this connection prior through Twitter, and then post the earthquake, they've been having some Skype conversations. I just want to show you this.
Hi there.
Hi there, good morning again, Sonny.
Hello.
His name is Pragav, and my name is Divi. What's your name?
Matthew.
My name's Brian, and I'm the Year 2 teacher at Innerborough School.
About yourself and what you've been learning about.
Recently, we've been spending a lot of time connecting classrooms globally.
What's life been like in your country at the moment?
Well, starting to get normal right now. Feeling normal. But just like after the news, like everyone was pretty scared and stuff.
So we've made the initial connections through social media, and then from that, we've been able to connect the classes using video conferencing. We were able to talk to them shortly after the earthquake in Nepal. Students from Innerborough School were able to write letters of support and encouragement.
Right. I think one of the things that we've done is try to help others, and I think that's the best way for us to probably cope with this disaster. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Sick.
It's just interesting to hear that, yes, there's, every school is doing a gold coin donation or a mufti day or something. But the extent to which kids really resonate with that, just being told to can be concerned about something, oh, we should feel sorry for these people. They've made connections, but more than that, they actually got to see resilient. I don't know if you could make out the teacher. The teacher's saying, you know what, the best thing we've found to do to cope, is work out what we can do to help other people. And what an amazing lesson to learn, that when we're going through adversity, one of the best things we can do is look outwards and see what we can do to help. Now, like I say, the teacher there pushed all the stops. He had to get permission notes and all this kind of stuff, and the kids were, all that kind of stuff. What I'd love to do is if the lights could go up, please, just for a second. And I'm going to video you, hopefully, go on 3. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. You just say, thanks Year 2 for sharing. And it's just about home time for them. And I'm going to tweet it to them, so they're going to get it as they go. Now, if you're in witness protection, just cover your face. Because I do have a few followers on Twitter, all right? And one might be the police or something, or some crim, right? I don't know. I can't vet all my followers. So, I'm going to start videoing. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And thanks for sharing Year 2. Try and get it right. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Thanks for sharing Year 2.
Yeah. That's cool, thanks. Those kids are going to go off, right? Because the last time the teacher was basically presenting to a room full of 10 people, right? So now that'll go off. That's fantastic. So what can you do? Well, some of you probably aren't teachers. Some of you might not be parents, but I'm tipping that you've all got input in a certain way. So there's 3 platforms there that you might consider having a look at. I'm not going to tell you about them. Just jump in and have a look. Some of you will be there going, yeah, but I'm not a technology person, right? If you've not learned anything today or the day before, you must have learned that the brain's plastic. So you're not a technology person yet, right? Jump in and have a crack, all right? And if you're really struggling, this is an open invitation to contact me anyway. I'll sign anything you want, seriously, except bills. And thank you so much for having me. Thanks for caring about our kids. Thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
If you go to this supermarket and shouting, I want to buy peace of mind, then people laughing, or people feel that person's mind is something wrong.
Now, this word connections is a really interesting one, because our kids today are more connected than ever.
Of course, then when you're in an institution, people call you up. They tell you to perk up. Yeah, perk up, because I didn't think of that.
I should have a happiness project, I decided. As soon as I have some free time, I'm going to do that.